Welcome to a new episode from American Pulse. I'm Michael Morgan. Today our topic is promoting positive change in knowledge, attitudes, and behavior. Today we're very lucky to have Dr. Hamid al-Biati. Hi, Doctor. Dr. al-Biati was the former permanent representative of the Iraqi mission in the United Nations since 2006 till 2013. He is currently a professor in Rutgers University for Political Science. Why don't you talk about yourself a little bit, Dr. Biati?
Well, there's not much to talk about, but I served as permanent representative of Iraq to the UN between 2006 and 2013. Now I'm professor at Rutgers University. I'm going to teach an MA program designed for junior diplomats, people who work at the UN, and students who want to join the UN. So the focus, my role in the program is to focus on the United Nations issues. I was Deputy Foreign Minister for Foreign Affairs and Bilateral Relations between 2004 and 2006. Before that, I lived in exile in London.
Oh, excellent. You have a very busy resume.
Yes, yeah. Keep busy, you know.
Yes. Dr. Biati, I wanted to talk about your understanding of what's going on in Egypt right now, if you can give me an idea of what the situation is.
Well, at the outset, we have to emphasize the importance of Egypt in the region and the world. Egypt is the largest Arab country. Egypt had a history, a very old civilization, and it's a very important geopolitical position of Egypt. Therefore, I think the whole world, especially the Arab world, realized that Egypt is so important to all of them, and I think this is why we can see that everybody was concerned with the situation, but now I think people have some kind of light in the end of the tunnel, that eventually we could have stability, and then eventually we could have, you know, economic prosperity.
Great. We'll get more in details into that later in the show, but I was wondering if you don't mind if we can open up an old file of yours living in Iraq and how, you know, under dictatorship of Saddam, and what did you think about ruling of Saddam, and then you moving to England, forming a campaign against Saddam Hussein. So if you can talk about that, would be great.
Well, under Saddam regime, everybody suffered. The Iraqi people, the region, neighboring countries, even, you know, international powers, the United Nations. Saddam followed a policy of repression against the Iraqi people, and then he had 2 wars with neighboring countries. Then he challenged the international community by developing weapons of mass destruction, launching wars, repression, etc., etc. I was imprisoned and tortured.
Wow.
When I left the prison, I decided to stand up against dictatorship. I fled the country when they tried to re-arrest me, because in the first time they said, we will release you, this time next you will be executed. I left the country, I lived in London. I launched a campaign, media campaign and educational campaign. I had meetings with officials in the UK, in Europe, and even in the United States. I used to travel to New York and Washington twice a year. So all that campaign resulted in Saddam putting pressure on my family. 8 members of my family were executed in 3 campaigns.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Even my mother was forced to be on TV 3 times as a threat to me, with my sister whose husband was executed, and 3 brothers.
Sorry to hear that.
Even after I returned back to Iraq in 2003, I have another brother who was kidnapped and killed. But I said I will face the dictatorship. I will stand against the dictatorship, no matter what sacrifice it will take. Eventually we managed to see the end of Saddam regime. Now we enjoy democracy, freedom, elections, human rights, rule of law, etc., etc.
How did it feel being in prison, and how long were you there for?
I was a few months because they accused me of planning a demonstration against the regime. It was a funeral for 5 people who were executed by the regime, one of them living in my neighborhood. So I went to the funeral. There was some shouting and shooting and, so many things. Eventually they couldn't prove anything. I didn't confess. If I confess for anything, I'll be executed. So I said, I just went to a funeral. I'm not part of a secret organization. I try to prove that I am a part of a secret organization which try to topple the regime, and then they will go to their bosses, to the leader, to say, listen, there's a big conspiracy, these people confess, and something like that. Many people with me were executed, so I insist that I was, innocent and had nothing to do with politics.
Not that I support this or agree to this, but I hear a lot of Iraqi people say things were better back in the days under Saddam regime, where people that didn't directly interfere with him, I'm talking about the working people and the normal people, not the politicians. And the other thing is, I wanted to know if the U.S. administration would have approached Iraq in a different way. You think it would have been better? Did they do any mistakes? You think going to Iraq was the right thing to do or not?
Mm-hmm. Well, before Iraq-Iran war, which lasted for 8 years, some people were saying if you don't interfere in politics, you will be safe. So the majority of people, either they kept silent or they go with the regime. But during Iraq-Iran war, Saddam took young people from each single family in Iraq because they need them in the war. It's a long war, and it was a bloody war. So a lot of people were killed. So almost every single family suffered because of that war. Then 2 years later, after the end of the war, after 8 years, he invaded Kuwait. And when you invade a country, you need, soldiers. Okay. So they were grabbing any person in the street, put them in a truck, send them to the battlefront. They could be killed the same day or the next day. So everybody suffered. You cannot say Saddam regime was better. But I'll give you one single example. Iraqi dinar rate from the beginning of the 20th century until the beginning of Iraq-Iran war used to worth $3.3. So an average family could travel, could import a new car from anywhere. My father, who was from middle-class business family, he imported his new American car back in 1958. He imported his new Mercedes in 1966. He had a factory which depends on Egyptian skillful people. They used to transfer half of their salary in dollars to their families. Those who live in Cairo managed to buy apartments, but those who live outside, like we had some people from Zaqazir province, they bought a house of 3-4 apartments. They live in one and rented the rest. Now, immediately after the beginning of the war, because the oil stopped, which is the cover for the currency, Iraqi dinar rate became 3,000 Iraqi dinar equal to $1. Oh, wow. Sometimes 4,000, sometimes 5,000. So more than 15,000 times devaluation of the dinar. What happened? Every Iraqi was living in a very poor situation. Iraqis, for the first time in the history, they start to look for food in the trash. For the first time, they start to beg in the street. This is the situation. So we cannot say it was better. In addition to repression and killing people on the wars, what the war left? Hundreds of thousands killed, widows, orphans, Yes. Saddam killed 2 of his sons-in-law. He killed another cousin and a brother-in-law. What do you think? He used chemical weapons against the Kurdish people in the north, against the west, against Anbar, and even against the south. So we cannot say he was a better...
So it was the only way to deal with him is just to do what was done, right?
Well, I felt the only way, we had no chance, no other way but to get rid of him. And we have a dictator like him. He was preparing his son to be like, his successor, and then other members of the family. So, yes, now we have some difficulties and challenges, but we hope that we are building for, the foundation for future generations. At least we have the next President, Sheikh Ghazi Liawer, since 2003. We have 2 ex-Prime Ministers, Dr. Ayad Allawi and Dr. Ibrahim al-Ja'fari. Yes. We used to have executed the President and executed Prime Ministers.
Yes. I wish all the best to the Iraqi people and great nation and great history. I just want to, as an American Egyptian or Egyptian American, I would like to find out what are the advices you'd like to give to the Egyptian people to avoid problems. A lot of things that happen in Iraq that could not be avoided at that time. We didn't learn about it, but we've seen it now in Iraq. How can we avoid fighting people with each other, Muslims against Christians, Shia against Sunnah? What are you?
Well, I'm really concerned and sad about the situation in Egypt, because for the first time in the contemporary history, I saw Egyptians killing each other. Egyptian in general are peaceful people, and they live in peace and harmony for centuries. So the first thing they should think of, that they should unite again to have political stability in order to bring foreign investment, in order to have economic prosperity. Egyptians suffered a lot. It's a large country, big population, less natural resources than other Arab countries such as Iraq or Gulf countries. But they have the capability, they have human resources, they have political position. They play a very important role. I think the whole Arab world is waiting for Egypt to be back again to play its important role. So the advice to the Egyptians: forget your differences. There's differences everywhere, even among members of the family. But you are one family, Unite first, build your country, and differences you can solve it through political, ways. Like in Iraq, now I think Iraqis are starting to learn to shout at each other in the parliament rather than to shoot at each other. In the beginning they thought they can wipe each other. They cannot. Nobody.
It's never going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen.
And wars and aggression is never a solution to anything.
Exactly. Violence will bring counter-violence, and then it will be endless. So the best thing is to unite again. I think the Egyptians have the ability. They've been through difficult things in the past. And then if they have unity, if they put the interests of the country first, then they are united. They could have differences, which is very natural and normal.
Well, I know that you had a very close experience with Egyptians in Egypt. You've moved to Egypt for a while, right?
I lived in Egypt. I did my master's degree, but what I loved in Egypt, that people were humble and simple.
Welcoming.
And welcoming, and they like to joke. I remember once in a trip, the driver who was taking me from the airport to the hotel, before he left the airport, he saw somebody and told him a joke. I said, we came to the country of the joke. He said, well, we are poor people. If we don't joke, we will explode, So what I like, they have this, and then they respect foreigners. Not only foreigners, but any visitor, tourist. I went back to Egypt several times after I lived there for 2 years, and it's a lovely country. A lot of Iraqis enjoy living there, and actually, in fact, people from all over the world like to go there. And it's a very honestly, when I went to the UK, when I asked people about Arab world, the first thing is Egypt. Now, unfortunately, Dubai. I have to be frank with you. You know what I mean? I mean, Egypt, because there is historical size, there is so many nice things to
More than a third of the world touristic attraction.
Exactly. With all respect to Dubai, it's a very nice place, but doesn't have the history, So people go see modern things, modern
But
buildings.
it's sad that we cannot advertise this, and we cannot try get this out to the public, and we're not doing enough to reminding everybody that Egypt has the history, Egypt is the land.
I think it will come back because the world is aware, everybody is aware of the importance of Egypt. And people always look for history, especially tourists. They like to learn about history, civilizations. And Egypt is one of the oldest civilizations in the world. So they will come back. But you need stability, you need prosperity, Egypt was exactly. Egypt was depending on tourism. And this is why tourists target tourist places, because they think by attacking these tourist places or the tourists themselves, then they could stop one of the major sources for Egypt. So hopefully things will come back. I hope that, Egyptians will go back to the old days when they live in peace and focus on their... I think the majority of every nation, they are peace lovers, Maybe few people, the minorities always who make problems and troubles, but unfortunately voices of those minority is heard much more than the majority of people.
From dictatorship to democracy, something that I want to talk about after we come back from the break. So we're back with Dr. Al-Biati. How are you, doctor?
I'm okay, thank you.
All right, from dictatorship to democracy. I've learned that you've written many books, about 13 or 14 books?
I published 12, and I'm working on number 13, number 14.
All right, so I would like to learn more about this book in particular, Fourth Generation of Terrorism, as well as the Arab Spring. So if you can talk to us about those books.
Yeah, I signed 2 contracts with Fairleigh Dickinson University to publish 2 books. One is going to be published by the end of this year, the second one end of next year. The one about Arab Spring is going to explore the reasons behind what happened in Tunisia, in Egypt, in Libya, Yemen, Syria, Iraq, all these, what happened in the Arab world, that people went to the streets, political reasons, economic reasons, social reasons, all those I'm going to study because it's a very important phenomenon. I don't think anything like that happened since the beginning of the 20th century, when nations start to, to stand up against colonial powers and occupation by British or French in the region. The second book is a 4th generation of terrorism. I think what happened is that terrorism, modern terrorism, which is a new phenomenon, by the way. We never had people, having, suicide bombers or car bombs back in 1950s or 40s or 30s. Start with Afghanistan, the invasion, Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, and Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden. That's the first generation where they have a safe haven in Afghanistan. And that, of course,
developed over the years.
Developed, and then we have 9/11, we have attacks everywhere in Europe, in the Middle East, etc. Now the second generation is in Iraq. As you know, when occupation was announced, which was against our advisor as Iraqis. I was invited to Washington back in August 2002, 7 months before the war, and we told American officials, we met Dick Cheney, Rumsfeld, Colin Powell, almost every high-ranking official except the president who was in his ranch in Texas. We told them, you should set up an Iraqi government immediately after the fall of Saddam regime. And the answer was, we will set up an Iraqi government as soon as possible. We said, this is vague. It could be weeks, could be months, could be years. Occupation will mean resistance. This is what happened. When they announced occupation, jihadis, what they call jihadis, or terrorists, pour from all over the world into Iraq, and they start to have, so they have a safe haven in certain areas, and they start to launch attacks, not only against Iraq, but, Then we have the third generation, North Africa, Libya. They managed to kill a U.S. ambassador. 9/11, can you imagine? 9/11, 2012, they managed to kill an ambassador in Libya. So that's the third generation. The fourth generation is coming from Syria, definitely, because Syria now is a safe haven. Now Al-Qaeda in Iraq and Syria, they combine. ISIS, which is, Islamic State in Iraq and in Syria or the Levant. So I think this is a new generation, and the West is aware. So far, the first American Arab, had a suicide attack, and he was named, So we're going to have these terrorists coming back from Syria, going back to all over the world.
This is scary, Doctor.
We have to face dangers before it happens. 9/11, the book I'm working now, I'm working on 9/11. All the indications showed that there were signs that they're going to attack in the U.S. Because Osama bin Laden announced declared war against the West, against the U.S. He said we're going to attack inside the U.S. There were so many signs which were unnoticed, This is why everybody believed that 9/11 could be avoided if the intelligence, could pick up on those signs.
That was my next question to you. What are the preventative measures you think that the whole world should take to prevent any further attacks?
We need a holistic solution. Unfortunately, the policy, U.S. policy and Western policy, is some kind of reactive to what happened. There's an attack in India, they focus on Indian continent, or subcontinent. There's an attack in Africa, they go to Africa. There's an attack in Europe. We need a holistic solution to study the roots of extremism and then to try to find a solution. And we need to tackle this problem internationally. This is why when I talk about Egypt-U.S. relations, it's very important, because U.S. have some allies in the region. With those allies, they could work together to fight the common enemy, which is terrorism. Terrorism, like cancer, if we don't stop it, if we don't cut it, it will spread, just like it in the body. That's why they have to take out, they have to deal with the cancer immediately, So
you support the surgical intervention with terrorism?
I think that unfortunately, most of the writers who wrote about terrorism, they don't understand. We understand the region, we understand the culture, the tradition. As a Muslim who was born in Iraq, I could understand why Osama bin Laden justified. I'm not saying he's right, but how he misinterprets the Quran or Islam to justify killing innocent. There's no justification whatsoever. I read the Quran, I read the Bible, I read the Torah. My father put me in a Christian school when I was 4 years old. I used to go to the church when I was 4 years old. And that make me interested in stories of all religions. When I read all these holy books, and they have a book about similarities between holy books. It wasn't published. I'm looking for a publisher now. But when I collected 300 pages of similarities between all holy books, the Quran, the Bible, the Torah, and even the Tanakh, which is the Jewish Bible, all of them show that they come from one source for the same message. Live in peace and harmony. Love your neighbor as you love yourself, you know? So why people are killing each other all over the history and now everywhere in the world? It's misunderstood in the name of religion, in the name of God. They don't understand. If you kill one soul in the Quran, if you kill one person, as if you killed everybody. If you save one life, as if you saved everybody's life. So the value and the reason, again, in the Torah and the Quran says that God created Adam from dust. He blew into Adam from his soul, become alive. So we hold part of God's soul, which is eternal. This is why we believe we will be eternal. When the body goes to the grave, the soul will raise to heaven. So we need to live in peace. The worst thing, the biggest crime and sin anybody can commit is to kill people. We need that kind of campaign, and that kind of campaign is not there, unfortunately.
So how do you think we should promote these ideas and ideology?
I think, as you mentioned, it's very important to launch ideological war against terrorism, not only military. So we need, yeah, exactly. We need the basic thing. Those who go and commit suicide, thinking that they will go to heaven, we have to tell them, listen, you're going to be in hell forever, because it's very clear text. If you kill somebody, an innocent person, you go to hell and you'll be in hell forever, hellfire forever. So that idea of committing suicide, killing 50 or 100 or 1,000 and go to heaven, it's some kind of misconception. So we need to educate people. We need to go to people. Of course, we need to create jobs. We need to find economic solution. But we need to fight terrorism also militarily, because they don't understand. They are not ready to have negotiation. They are not ready even. They don't like democracy. They say democracy is not right. We can't have democracy. They said democracy is not compatible with religion. But we believe democracy is a way of selecting a ruler, and this happened even in Islam in the past. You know, when people select their leader, it's very, very normal that you can select the leader according to Islam or any other religion. So we need a holistic solution. We need people who understand the religion. You know, if you read any book about 9/11, believe it or not, the whole FBI have only 2 speaking Arabic people. Can you imagine that? How they can fight 9/11, that after the attack in Riyadh, Al-Khubar, in Yemen, in Kenya, in Tanzania, all these attacks should make the FBI aware that they need Arabic-speaking people to understand the statement of Osama bin Laden, how he justified killing others. Now, I wrote in the past, I published 2 books about terrorism. One of them called Terrorism Game about 9/11 and Osama bin Laden. The second one is about terrorism in Iraq, of Mus'ab al-Zarqawi, who was planting car bombs in markets in the streets, which kill anybody. It could kill anybody, Muslim, Christian, Arab, Kurd, Turkoman, Sunni, Shiite, you know. A car bomb doesn't distinguish between a person or another. 9/11, they hijacked a plane with innocent people, women, children, people, and then they hit a building. They killed thousands of people. It's not justified in any religion. It can't be justified.
So education, we have to talk to the religious ministers and the shuyukh and the priests.
Yeah. Well, religious establishment and religious scholars could play a positive role. Unfortunately, some of them are playing negative role by saying jihad is in this place and this place. It's very public. A lot of religious scholars say you can have jihad in this country and this country and this country. And jihad means holy war. And holy war means you are justified to go and kill and to be killed. We have to stop that. Of course, we need to, as I said, political solutions. We need economic solutions, social, solving social problem. But I think ideology is the major issue, which is not understood very well in the West, neither being handled in a good way.
My final question to you, Dr. Bayati, what should the Egyptians do to regain the harmony between the Egyptian community and the American society?
Well, Egypt is a center for Islamic culture. Al-Azhar, Al-Sharif, is one of the oldest Islamic universities in the world, more than 1,000 years old. So they could lead a campaign of living in peace and harmony all over the world, between Muslims, Christians, Jews, and all other, religions. This is very important. But they start with themselves. We need a way to tell Egyptians, you are brothers in one country. And by the way, all these holy books say that they create us from Adam and Eve. So we are brothers and sisters.
Yes,
we are cousins. We relate to each other. I mean, some people, they say, I don't believe in religion, I don't believe in holy books, I don't believe. I say, what do you believe in? Science. So, okay, scientists studies through DNA tests prove that around 7 million people live today in different continents. They go back in the history to one man and woman. So if 7 million go back to a couple, 7 billion, which is the population of the world, go back to Adam and Eve. And if we don't believe all these holy books and we don't believe in science, what else we can believe in? So we are one big family. Luckily, we are living in a small village now with communication, with transportation, I managed to fly from New York to Japan, to Korea, to China, to Australia, everywhere, So it's a small world, and we need to take care of this world because we are living now in a small village, a big family in a small village.
Very nice to have you on our show, Dr. Bayati, and hope we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. So welcome back to American Pulse. We're still working on promoting positive changes to knowledge and attitudes and behavior. And we have our next guest, Mr. Sheen Saathi and Mr. Alex Kootam. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Saathi is the CEO of PCI Media Impact, and Mr. Kootam is Director of Partnership. Why don't you guys talk about yourself a little bit for us?
So first of all, it's a real pleasure to be here. My name is Sheen Saathi. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of PCI Media Impact. I'm a dual Canadian-South African who's been blessed to work around the world. I have a particular affinity to Egypt, having lived in Maadi for 6 months. And
Maadi for 6 months?
For 6 months. And of the many countries I've been to, I have a special place in my heart for Egypt. I find the people, the energy, the passion is always inspiring to me. So it's great to be here.
Thank you for coming.
And I'd like to also echo my gratitude for being here today. It's a real honor and a privilege. My name is Alex Kootam, by the way, great pronunciation.
Yeah.
As you can probably deduce from the pronunciation, I'm French American, dual citizenship as well, and been with PCI Media Impact for about 3 years now as Director of Partnerships. And I too have a very strong affinity for the Middle East, Egypt in particular, but I've also lived in the UAE for about 1.5 years or so when I was younger, and had the privilege of going back to the region with a number of different fellowships and on a number of different work programs.
Great, we'll get to that in a minute.
Excellent.
So what is PCI, if you guys can explain to us?
So PCI Media Impact is a 501c3, a not-for-profit. We have been in action for almost 30 years. Next year is our birthday, so we're looking to have a good birthday party. We'll ensure to invite you. And we believe in the power of stories and creative communication. We believe that a good story touches people's heads, touches people's hearts, and can change action on the ground. So over the last 30 years, we've worked in 50 countries. We've produced over 100 long-running serial dramas on TV and radio that have reached 1 billion people with 5,000 episodes. So we believe that a good story can captivate the audience, and as you open today, it can help change knowledge, attitudes, and practices in a much more effective way than a traditional didactic communication methodology.
So basically, you guys try to reach out to the congregation and the people and the population of the whole world to implement peaceful thoughts and ideology, and by educating them through your drama.
Yeah, one of the things I'd like to highlight is in reaching out to them, we do so in what we consider to be a capacity building method, which is really a way to empower the local communities to tell their own stories. We firmly believe that people on the ground, the people that face the daily struggles, whether it's dealing with issues of peace and reconciliation or women's empowerment or any issues that they deem as important, they're the ones facing those issues on a daily basis. So it's really much more powerful and I think much more successful to just give those people the tools so that they can tell their own stories and do so creatively rather than us doing.
Well, I could definitely fall into the category of your perfect target audience because I'm audiovisual. I'm all about listening and watching. So if I watch something, I like it and I believe in it. I imagine it and I live by it. So it's a very good methodology to mediate your ideology. What's your current project right now?
We're actually working in 32 countries around the world right now with 23 different projects. So we're working in 15 countries of Africa, West Africa in particular, and Southern Africa.
Is Egypt one of them?
Not yet, sadly, but that's why we're here today, to help identify and bring this beautiful methodology to Egypt.
Yes, that would be great.
We also work in the Caribbean, we work here in the U.S., and we work across Latin America. We work on climate change programs, women's empowerment programs, we work on biodiversity conservation, all the way through to last week we launched a new music program, Devo Music Contest in Kenya, to help save the last protected elephants in the world, which come out of East Africa.
Oh, that's very nice. Alex, why don't you talk to us about your trip to the Middle East? You just came back, I believe, a few months ago.
Yeah, right. So one of the great things about being in the field of storytelling and media, so to speak, is that we're constantly learning new ways of applying this methodology to try to reach more people and to try to understand the nuances of how people consume media and how we can really change behaviors that way. So an opportunity came around a few months ago to be part of the United Nations Alliance on Civilizations Fellowship, which was a tremendous opportunity to visit a wonderful part of the world, which in this case was comprised of 3 countries in the Middle East, Egypt being at the forefront, and of course other countries such as Morocco as well as Qatar. So it was really a nice sort of wide opportunity to be exposed to different Muslim countries and to really enhance the dialogue between Western and Muslim countries to really try to promote peace and understanding through dialogue.
Well, this is the main goal of the show, so we're working together in the same direction.
So you have an expert here.
And I will definitely use your expertise. Egypt, talk to me about Egypt. This is great. I'm glad you just came back. I miss Egypt.
I can understand how you miss it. I've only been there 2 times and I miss it already. I think Egypt, to me personally, was really the highlight of the trip, and the reason for that, in the field of peace and conflict resolution, you're constantly hearing about Tahrir Square and what happened with regards to the government overtake and so on. And for me, I thought, this is a great example, being in media, that you tend to always think that it was really driven by social media. You hear all about the Twitter revolution and how this really sparked a real sense of change in the country. But frankly, when I was in Egypt, I realized that there's a massive human dimension that really prevails over all of the technology, all of the different social media outlets and so on. Yes, in a country of 83 or 85 million people, sure enough, there is going to be a great use of social media such as Facebook and Twitter. But really what made me realize that was so much more important was that, out of 85 million people, something like 250,000 people are on Twitter, for instance. Yeah. To really showcase that it's about that human dimension. It's the people that went out and really wanted to voice their opinion. And so I think there's a real shift in what's happening on the ground, where people are really getting more empowered, and you're getting this sort of voice of the voiceless that really seems more prevalent now.
So you seem to be able to very closely touch the fact that Egyptians had enough of corruption and aggression and having problems with the government. They just went out there and they said, enough is enough. We're going to do what we want, and this is what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do, and that is how we're going to do it.
One of my favorite quotes, I remember speaking to a journalist there at the time, is he said something to the extent that in Egypt, it's not so much about the type of government that's in place or even the type of politics that are being undertaken. It's really the fact that people can change their governments.
Yeah.
And I thought, to me, that really resonated because, oftentimes you have this parochial notion that, it's a corrupted government that doesn't allow people to really voice their opinion, or it's very much sort of anchored in that way. But truthfully, it's the opposite. People are voicing their opinion on a daily basis.
I was watching the presidential ceremonies of announcing the President Sisi to be the president of Egypt. And funny enough, I noticed that 2 of the Egyptian presidents are in prison. One just gave out his position to the new president, and so 4 presidents at the same time. That never happens anywhere in the world.
It's really a unique place. So I'm very grateful to have had the opportunity to go there.
So how do you guys pick up your projects in PCI? What should Egyptian people or media reach out to you in order to get your attention?
Well, I think at the core of our approach is a recognition that stories work for anything. A good story with good content provokes discussion and conversation, and with conversation comes that social mobilization that allows for change to happen. So we work on health issues, so where we see a particular problem. So for example, HIV/AIDS in Africa is a very big problem. And the problem is that the public often doesn't understand the issues. So that's an area where we commit ourselves to helping use good storytelling to let people know what the situation is, how they can stop it, and the individual services and organizations they can work with to take care of themselves. So there has to be a need. There has to be a local partner we can work with, because as Alex said, we're a capacity building organization and we don't bring the stories to the table. The local vernacular, the local partner helps identify the good story.
Well, I have no doubt there's a lot of stories in Egypt. You guys.
Storytelling culture. So they didn't create shisha pipes just for people to smoke. It's a chance to share. And but almost all cultures have a storytelling nature. And of course, the third dimension in all of this work is money. So we work with our partners to find a funding source that can allow us to create quality content that will really create new conversations and therefore shift behaviors.
Great. We'll watch a couple of your projects and we'll talk about it after we come back.
This is the story of this girl who was younger, living with this guy who claims to be her uncle. Her mother brought her to this guy when she was much younger. Took her to school, make her feel like a daughter. At the age of 14, her mother died, she discovered. Few months later, uncle attitude changed. Caught her in the corner, tried to pull down her jeans, but she couldn't believe what was happening, so she screamed. Then he left her alone with her threatening remarks. If you don't let me to do what I do, then you should pack. No more paying your fees, no more food to eat. In fact, I think my heart, you gotta leave. So she sat alone all time and she cried. And she couldn't believe what was happening in her life. Her uncle didn't stop until he get what he want. And it's ripped to the kid, and I was born.
Together we stand, and whatever we learn today, lots of friendship good on her day. Good to see them coming up with the her day today.
Okay, yo. So as times went by, the little girl started to worry. No one to talk to her to give her courage. She started to leave. Who gonna pay her school fee? Who gonna even find place for her to sleep? But she under the fear not to tear anybody. She started getting reduced and dry in her body. How can she move when she call up in a trap? But once some money and she woke up with a station. She went with tears in her eyes to the police station. She told the police how she got tormented, and they quickly ran and had been arrested. So take the message from me to you, parent. Always learn to keep eyes on the children. Don't pick and choose among the children. In the community, be there for one another. Treat the children equal together. I think it's better.
Together we stand,
Okay.
and whatever
am I wrong when you know it not right? Matter of fact, I guarantee. Let me speak on the right. They need love, they need care, they need protection in their life, but not fear. Based on the fact, some guys, they eat some bad habits. Or such a habit like that, I think we have to stop it. Who told you raping the children is gonna give you power? Destroying the children, is that your desire? Parent control the children, don't leave them alone. Rape always happen when the child is alone. They are the future and the leader of the universe. Give them the chance to grow up to be a better one. So whatever you are, there's one for everyone. The life of the children in this world, I'm speaking on. I can't hold it no longer, my heart is burning on.
Very inspiring video about Song for Hawa. Can you elaborate about this project?
So it's one thing as an organization I'm particularly proud of at the moment. You may not know, but the situation in Liberia on rape and violence against girls is some of the very worst in the world. Anywhere from 70 to 90% of women have been abused or raped in Liberia. They had a 14-year civil war that really created a lot of social disruption. So it's a big problem. And the way that a lot of partners were taking it on was with very traditional approaches. A big billboard that said, you know, real men don't rape. And we as an organization were in Liberia for another issue, creating a conservation drama called Eat Some, Keep Some. And we realized that something like 50% of young Liberian men can't read. And we realized they're seeing all these billboards of a man hitting a woman, and if you can't read the text, you're getting the opposite message that you're supposed to get. Yeah. So we thought, how can we reach young men with a message that they'll understand? So we asked around and we did our research, and we found what is the most popular hipco, which is colloquial hip-hop. And you heard some on the video.
Yeah, is this the same thing?
This is the EP that goes with the song, the video you saw. So Takunje is the name of the wonderful hipco star, and he believed in the issue. And we introduced him to a young group of girls, 25 girls, at a wonderful rehabilitation home called Think. And those 25 girls all shared their stories. And he created Song for Hawa as an amalgamation of each of their situations. And the main behavior change we were pushing is to encourage girls to report rape, because it's a big problem with reporting, and to realize that they can overcome rape, that they can lead healthy lives if they take charge of themselves, focus on education, focus on vocational training. So we produced 2 songs and a video with...
So you target the problem after the fact of...
Yes.
When the rape happens, you target the problem afterwards.
Yes. So we were encouraging girls who've been raped to feel comfortable to report. Often the situation is complicated because it can sometimes be a close family member, an uncle, someone who may provide financial support, so there's also incentives for the girls not to report. What I'm very proud of is, based on these videos and songs, within 6 months, Takunje was adopted by the national government as the National Anti-Rape Ambassador. So he was speaking out on the radio, on TV, and we are now partnering with UNICEF to bring concerts to all of the rural areas. So we've got 2 other artists joining Takunje, a wonderful woman performer called Lady Mumphy, and Nasiman. These are interesting names because they're hipco stars. And they're going out and they're sharing this story, sharing hope sharing concrete behavior changes with young people across rural Liberia in a way that they can really understand.
Well, unfortunately, I can relate to this problem now because we've been having some harassment issues in Egypt, and 2 days ago in Tahrir Square there was an incident, and it's very sad that one of the folks had it on tape and he just put it on Facebook, and it was all over Facebook, and I think this is that was not very wise action of him doing that and sharing it on Facebook and exposing this girl to millions and millions of people. But in the same time, we want your help in approaching those girls that have had attacks in Egypt to speak up about it and report it, because if nobody talks about it, they need to speak out. And matter of fact, I know you guys have done Let's Speak Out, Sarah.
Yes.
What's going on here?
So this is a comic book, also from Liberia, that helps young girls understand how rape happens and concrete things they can do to stop it happening. For example, it encourages the buddy system. Instead of walking home alone, walk with a friend. Mm-hmm. The issue of rape is not unique to Liberia. It's not unique to Egypt. All over the world there is violence against women and girls. We actually just completed a soap opera a month ago at the UCLA campus in California, also on rape and consent. Mm-hmm. Because even here in the U.S., this issue is everywhere. Mm-hmm. Entertainment education is a very powerful way to make the invisible visible and get people talking about it. So whether it's a song, whether it's a drama, whether it's a game, how can we get people talking about these important issues? Because with talk comes action.
If we find you guys local media helper that would like to sponsor one of these books to be distributed to girls in Egypt, would you be willing to help out and sharing the information and all the research materials you've done?
We would love to do that. And there's some, you can do more elaborate, expensive projects like a television novella. Mm-hmm. But for a very small cost, you can produce comic books, you can produce music videos that can be very powerful at provoking real change. So we would love for your partners, for the audience, to think about how can we partner together to make a change. One of my favorite quotes is an African proverb that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yes. I actually would like to share with my audience another clip of your production, and we'll talk about it right afterward. Another beautiful clip. I would like to. I was very happy that we shared it with our audience, and I would like you to comment on it, if you don't mind, Mr. Kootam.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to show this video. I realize there aren't many elephants in Egypt, but I think it helps to showcase.
There's a lot of camels.
There's a lot of camels. But I think it does help to highlight the ubiquitous nature of storytelling, which is to say that a story really can take the form of many different formats. We talked about comic books, we talked about long serial drama, we talked about radio dramas, and now we're talking about music videos. And in this case, not only can stories affect people in different ways through different mediums, but really we can take on different thematic issues. We talked about the power of storytelling through music to really empower young women to really speak out and to help to sort of report the issue of rape in Liberia. In this case, we're shifting entirely different focus to talk about wildlife conservation. So in this case, this young Tanzanian singer really took on the issue of poaching, which happens to be an immensely grave topic in Tanzania. In fact, last year alone, 11,000 elephants were killed and poached illegally. That's about 20 per day, if you do the math. And really, this is the pride of Africa, especially East Africa. You're looking at really a dwindling population of elephants, as well as rhinos and other wildlife. So really, this is an opportunity to use our methodology in a way that is contextualized to the local community. So as I said, this wonderful young Tanzanian artist took it upon himself to take this on head-on, really, and to develop a song and to produce this song, again, very low cost, very high impact, and really to inspire behavioral change on this issue of poaching. And so really we're at the embryonic stage of this wonderful program, so we don't have all of the impact to share with you today, but we'll be sure to definitely tell you what comes out of it. But again, a great example of shifting behaviors and really shedding some light on an important issue using
I think a very important topic that we need to, maybe one of the artists will sponsor and take it upon himself the same way it happened in Tanzania, discrimination in general, whether it's sexual discrimination, male, female, religious, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, older people, younger people. I think that could be a good material to work with. And I see you guys had a beautiful award. You just received it, right?
Yes, I was in Turkey just last week, in fact, and we as an organization were awarded by the Turkish Journalist and Writers Foundation with a $50,000 Peace Project Award.
Very nice.
And it will allow us to work with a network of journalists with a gender perspective in Colombia, and to help produce a drama that will provoke conversation on peace and reconciliation in Colombia and women's empowerment. Because it turns out when you help empower women, you make huge advances for the whole peace and reconciliation agenda. So we brought it today because it's sort of emblematic of what we think we can offer in the MENA region.
Yes,
because peace is something we all struggle with.
Yes.
Because we often alienate or project onto the other as something that's different. But in fact, we're all really the same when you get right down to it. One of my favorite stories of the impact of one of these shows took place in Kosovo. And they had a Big Brother show in Kosovo. And in the show, a young Albanian fell in love with a young Serbian, and through that show, the audience realized that even across religious grounds, even with that level of conflict, you can find commonality, you can find love, humanity. Because really, we're all the same at heart.
Great. I wish you guys all the best, and I definitely believe, one of the very strong believers, that media and art and musicals can give messages that we can spend thousands and thousands of hours lecturing people about things, but if they hear it in one music clip, they'll understand a lot more than we can talk about. So thank you for coming today, and we really enjoyed you guys very much, and hope to see you again.
Thank you very much. Now, we are planning to come to the region in the next 4 or 5 months. So we would be thrilled to explore with Egyptian partners how we can work together to create some meaningful content that can really change people's actions on the ground for good.
Definitely. We'll try to reach out to certain people, and if anybody's interested, please email us to the show, and we'll definitely be very happy to connect you guys together and finally form something really nice for the population to hear. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.